multi-platform radio, print, and digital media broadcast show that empowers change agents through intentionally disseminating information, resources, and referrals to empower our military population.
And with that, welcome to America's Heroes Group, our roundtable with our partner, Jesse Brown VA Works. January is Cervical Cancer Awareness and National Blood Donor Month. And don't forget, January 15th is Dr. Martin Luther King Day. But today is Saturday, January 14th, 2023. Our host is Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host, Army National Guard veteran. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have a panelist on the line today. That's Jeremy DeLizio. He's a licensed clinical social worker, community engagement, and partnership coordinator at the Jesse Brown VA, serving the Northwest Indiana area. And to give you some background about Jeremy, Jeremy has been with the VA since 2017, working with homeless veterans until 2020, first with the VA's HUD-VASH program in California, where he housed and then case managed chronically homeless veterans to maintain permanent housing. Jeremy then transferred to Jesse Brown VA's Community Resource and Referral Center, where he worked as an intake and outreach social worker, serving homeless and at-risk homeless veterans. He is a son of a career Navy veteran and is passionate about joining the community to work towards ending veteran suicide. Jeremy is also a proprietor of the Veterans Counseling, a part-time private practice. How you doing, Jeremy?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
That's great to have you. Got a little echo there, but so how are you doing today? So things are going pretty well with what you're working on. You're doing some great things in the community. We want to talk about the Jesse Brown VA, your community engagement, your partnership program, and then also what are some of the things that are important to you that you want veterans to know, and particularly when it pertains to your work. To get us started, what is the importance of your role at the VA?
Yeah, so I really think I have one of the coolest jobs at the VA. It's pretty new. I've been in this position for about 2 years. First, I'm going to give you the high level and then move to the local level, which is where my position is at. So first and foremost, suicide remains VA's number one clinical priority. But I am a part of VA's new nationwide public health approach to suicide prevention. And on a national level, VA is disseminating and implementing the national plan for preventing veteran suicide, buying a lot of ad space, partnering with the National Shooting Sports Foundation, and funding my position nationwide as well. At the state level, VA is partnering with SAMHSA to implement the Governor's Challenge, where the VA and SAMHSA are going to each state and inviting governors to basically take my priorities and implement them at the state level for policy. And I'll get into what my priorities are in a few seconds. Then you have my role as a community engagement and partnership coordinator. As I mentioned, they're they're filling my position nationwide. And it is my role to go into the community and join existing suicide prevention coalitions and create new veteran-focused suicide prevention coalitions. And I have these 3 priority areas that I'll get into in a few seconds, but that's just the high level of what I do. Everything I do is community-led, so it's not the VA going into communities and saying, hey, we think you should do X, Y, Z. We want to partner with communities to really reach veterans where they live, work, and thrive. Because we realize, we can't prevent veteran suicide just inside our walls. So this is a really, when you think about this, I want you to think about as suicide prevention as a proactive upstream approach. So we want to reach people well before they reach crisis.
Mm. And how do you go in and actually help homeless veterans or help veterans in the community to get this care so that they don't get to that tipping point?
Right. So in my role, what I do is we survey the area. So I specifically cover Northwest Indiana. I reach out to a lot of different stakeholders inside the VA, outside the VA, and really understand, we do our best to really understand the community first, right, before we go into it. And then we reach out to the different stakeholders and let them know what our priority areas are. So I mentioned we have very specific priority areas that national VA distilled down from, I think it's 16 national priorities down to 3. For community-based public health. So first and foremost,
yes, so go through those priorities and kind of give us an idea about when we think about priorities from a military background, we think about it from a perspective of a mission or of a like, you know, task oriented goals and things like that. But take us down to what's the most important thing as far as your priorities and what you're working on.
Exactly. So that's exactly it. So these are kind of our, you know, marching orders of what the, you know, National VA thinks will help reduce suicide risk throughout the nation and our communities. So the first one is identifying service members, veterans, and their families, and risk ID. So what that means is we want to go out into the community and do everything we can to help community organizations culturally competently identify veterans. And what that means is, you know, let's say you're a community mental health organization and you're typically screening for veterans just by asking, hey, have you ever served? Are you a veteran, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we really, the more culturally competent way to do this, to kind of catch a wider net. So it's having people screen and ask, have you or a family member ever served in the armed forces? Because there's a lot of veterans who may not identify as a veteran, or, you know, are just used to saying no and moving forward, right? And this also captures those family members. So what we do is we have these coalitions that take on this priority area, and let's say we have a local mental health agency who's a part of that coalition. We then work with that local mental health agency to implement this screening question, but we also train them on military cultural competence, and then also what to do when someone says yes, right? And that's the complicated part. That's the hard part. Is, you know, how do you then, you know, connect them with services and the VA and also the community. So that's the other really big part about my role, is really, you know, just as equally connecting the VA services, connecting the, you know, community resources. The other half of that priority area is risk ID. So we want to get out into the community and train everyone we possibly can and suicide prevention trainings, and the VA's version is called VA Safe, and you know, military cultural competence and all that. So we want people in the community to be able to identify folks who are at risk and so forth. The second priority area is connectedness and care transitions. So this is my really broad one. Connectedness, you know, really has anything to do with reducing isolation, creating more connection to the community. It could be connected to resources and care, but it also could just be simple, you know, community. A lot of folks who are at risk feel very isolated. So we want to do everything we can to really create a culture of community, you know, in our community, actually. And then the second part of that is care transition. So veterans and people in general are, you know, pretty high risk when they're in transition. And what that means is, let's say you're inpatient somewhere, you're transitioning back to the community, or even, you know, especially what brings home for a lot of veterans is, you know, when I'm transitioning out, right? Transitioning out of the service, that's a very high risk time. So we want to make sure we build up resources in the community and at the VA that really try to, you know, smooth that transition out a little bit, increase connection between providers, you know, from the VA to the community, community to VA, and community to community. And then the third priority is lethal means and safety planning. So lethal mean is, you know, what someone chooses. So a lethal mean is what someone chooses to complete suicide, right? So it could be a firearm, could be a substance, could be hanging. And what this priority area is we want to train the community on how do we reduce access when someone's at risk. So we want to, you know, if we've identified someone who's at risk, maybe we don't want to take away people's weapons, but we want to have those conversations around, hey, you know, maybe we should lock it up. Maybe we should, you know, give this to a friend while we're at risk, and then you can get your weapon back, you know, when it's time, or train someone to identify, oh, looks like you're kind of stockpiling your medication. What's going on here? Things like that. And then we, through coalitions, what we'll do is we'll do like, you know, medication disposal days, gun lockbox packing events. So there's a lot of things you can do with that, you know, in the community.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you
this. I think that basically covers it.
It's a lot of seconds there. So let me ask you this: what is Let me back up a little bit. So you basically work more with public policy. So you kind of see an aggregate of the numbers. You kind of look at it from a wider point of view. Have you seen in the numbers from a public policy perspective a connection between homelessness and suicide for veterans?
So I'm not a researcher, so I couldn't, say yes. The research says this, the research says that. I would definitely say our homeless veterans are at, high risk. And, just coming from that, that's where I started in the VA. I would say, yes, absolutely. There's a connection. Is it more than, a veteran who might be struggling, who's housed? I think it just depends on what's going on with that veteran in that particular, because suicide is a very, unique situation for a person. And it's really hard to boil down and say, this is, homeless folks are, compared to other folks are way higher risk. I mean, yes, they are, but there's just a multitude of variables there, right? Mm-hmm. So I hate to, pigeonhole that. But yes, and one thing I want to say, when it comes, the VA has made massive strides, especially here in Chicago. I was just speaking to one of our homeless social workers, and they with this last housing push we've had, they're through a lot of the through a lot of the homeless veterans. I'm lost on the word right now, but now they're really just dealing with a lot of the chronic cases that are really difficult. But through a little kind of lesser chronicity cases, a lot of those folks are now housed. So it's really good.
That's really good. So your father was a career Navy veteran or a Navy service member. So so growing up, how did that shape your ideas about the military? And then also, how did that lead you? Did that lead you in any way, help you get to the VA?
Yeah, I think so. It's funny, you're growing up, I didn't realize until I started working for the VA, and this was, so my dad retired when I was around 5th or 6th grade when we moved to Illinois. I thought everybody did 20 years in the or career. I'm like, what? Oh, people are much shorter? Oh, wow. So that was kind of shocking for me, but yeah, it's always kind of been a part of me, and I always thought I would either go in myself, or it was just kind of just always lingering in the back of my head, and then nothing really stuck out to me in school, and then I finally took a sociology class, and I was like, all right, I like this, and then I got my bachelor's in sociology, and then I graduated, and I was like, well, what can I do with this? Absolutely nothing. So someone came along and explained social work to me, and I was like, oh, this is sociology in practice. Great. And I just kind of found my way to the VA because as a social worker, there's, no better I think there's no better place to work than the VA anyways, but definitely as a social worker, it's fantastic because it's the level of support and you get from, nationally.
So tell us about this hashtag reach out. Is that mission hashtag reach out or this hashtag reach out? What is that all about?
Okay, so mission reach out. So that the hashtag is there for, SEO purposes, but yeah, hashtag reach out. So it's similar to the Ice Bucket Challenge, but for veteran suicide prevention. So that's what I want you to think about when you're kind of conjuring this image. So Mission Reach Out is a unique challenge that I created to prevent suicide through the power of meaningful conversation and basic human connection. So this challenge has a veteran tinge to it, but it's really meant for everyone because we all struggle. Mm-hmm. And veterans do not live in a vacuum. So if we want to prevent suicide, we as a community must kind of break down all those silos, engage with each other, and ask our friends, families, and strangers, how are you? No, really, which is actually the slogan of this campaign. It is designed to prompt people to have meaningful conversations. And like what I mean by a meaningful conversation is to learn something about another person, yourself, or the world. A meaningful conversation or connection can be a powerful tool for someone in crisis because people experience a crisis often and it cannot see a way out of their problems or immediate situation. So any connection can kind of be like a breath of fresh air, Mm-hmm. So these conversations actually do not have to be about mental health or suicide. It's just about connecting beyond that surface level. So the challenge is to have 7 meaningful conversations over 14 days. And then like after that, we ask that, post on social media or about what is meaningful to you and nominate someone else to take the challenge, or do this in person and just share the challenge with a friend. Because if you think about the numbers here, right? So if we have, if someone has 7 meaningful conversations over 14 days, that's, and 100 people do this, that's 700 meaningful conversations. That's 700 opportunities to reach somebody. So we actually implemented this at the Jesse Brown Hospital and all of our outpatients clinics, and there's a physical version of this. So I got these white envelopes, and they're stamped classified with a mission brief that kind of explains the challenge just like the same way I did. And then there's also a QR code that leads to a link with a whole bunch of resources for veterans, for the general population on how to have meaningful conversations and mental health links and things like that. And we've actually built out this entire web-based platform for this. We even made a commercial.
Wow.
So I would love to plug that link whenever that time is appropriate. But that's the challenge.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the link is linktr.ee/mission reach out. MISSIONREACHOUT.
One more time, repeat that link. We'll probably post it on our website too as well. So if you're listening, go to americashg.org and you can see everything we're talking about. And also, of course, go back and replay this on YouTube, Facebook, and things like that. But I think it's really important that the thing that you're talking about is making sure you have meaningful conversations, because that is because it seems like when we read about suicide or talk about people that have done things, either damaged or hurt themselves or hurt other people, the thing that sticks out to me is isolation. And when you start having meaningful conversations with people, you start to get to know and understand where they're coming from. And I think that's one of the biggest barriers, particularly as a veteran, when you come back and you can't really connect with your community because they haven't really experienced the things you've experienced. So it's hard to have that connection. But how do you get a veteran to open up, particularly if they feel like you don't know where they're coming from?
And that's a difficult question because every person's different, but I really see it as just being open and honest with them. Because I don't think veterans expect you to, hey, I had those same exact experiences as you. So I think a veteran cringes, when they say, hey, I know how you feel, because no, you don't know how I feel, because and actually I was at a suicide veteran talk recently, and they actually talk about this subject. And a lot of veterans feel that way about even other veterans, right? Like, oh, I was over here in this war or in this area of Iraq. You don't know what I went through. So I think everybody feels that way. So it's not about saying, hey, I know how you feel, but it's saying, hey, I'm here to listen. And just being that, sounding board for somebody it means so much, because so many people just want to, they want to relate to you so bad, and it's just, all right, let's just listen and hear you and let you get it off your chest. And then I think that kind of opens up those blinders, because I think when someone's, really high risk, they can't see 5 feet in front of them. So I think anything we can do to just kind of get them through that fog is really important.
Well, I think that's really important, because basically what you're doing is you're making a friend, or either that or strengthening a friendship that you might already have with someone when you start to really just be an ear, as opposed to just always, wanting to just to tell a person or try to, give cliches we've heard on the TV or radio about how to. I know, that's okay. Yeah, I understand. It's going to be all right. That kind of stuff what people don't want to hear.
Right.
So let's see. What's the one thing you want to make veterans know about? Or what do you see when you meet them? What do you want them to know? What's the first thing you want them to know, or the most important thing you want them to know?
Yeah. So I want all veterans and their family members to know about our national hotlines. I think it's, one of the most important things for people to know about. Starting with our crisis line, which is now 988. So this transitioned over the summer. The national suicide hotline is 988. And then for veterans, they just have to press 1 to reach the VA crisis lines. So this is the same number as a national suicide crisis line. And I saw some interesting data on this, and you'd be surprised on how many people really don't know to press 1 and how many veterans don't know to press 1. So I really want them to know that. And I also want them to know that this is a crisis line, meaning you don't need to be in suicidal crisis to contact it. If you're a veteran or someone who is concerned about a veteran who is struggling for any reason, you can call this number for support. And then, sorry, go ahead.
One more time, give us the link to the hashtag reach out so people can, get that information as well. Because you have a lot of good information on there. And also, I think it goes back to that point of earlier about making sure that you can ask the right questions, but listen to people and make that connection.
Right. So that is www.linktr.ee/MISSIONREACHOUT.
All right, I appreciate your time. We had a lot of good information, and also I want to have you back because I want to get into what you've done in your career. You've done a lot of cool stuff as far as helping people, particularly in very difficult, areas of homelessness and suicide. I mean, that's really, really tough. And to have someone that has the time and the attention and also the patience to go through that and spend the time that you spent over the last years dealing with that, I really got to commend you on that, especially when it comes to the veteran community.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Jeremy Delizio, licensed clinical social worker, community engagement, and partnerships coordinator at the Jesse Brown VA, serving the Northwest Indiana area. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
This is America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back. Welcome back to America's Heroes Group, a roundtable with our partner, the Chicago Regional Office of Veteran Benefits Administration. January is Cervical Cancer Awareness and National Blood Donor Month. Saturday is January 14, 2023 is today. Tomorrow is January 15th, and that is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Our host is Cliff Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have a panelist on the line here. That's Tanya Nixon. She supervises and coaches the Chicago training team at the VA Chicago Regional Office. With nearly 22 years of experience with the VA, she has covered all aspects of the VA disability claims process, including appeals. So how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. So we want to talk about the VA benefits eligibility matrix and also the ancillary benefits that may be available to veterans based on service-connected disability evaluations. What can you tell us about that? I had a chance to look at the matrix, and there's actually three of them. I see there's one for service-connected, one for non-service-connected, one for circumstances. Kind of walk us through this and then kind of give us the information that we need to know about what's going on with
Sure. So since we only had half an hour, I'm, for this time at least, sticking to the service-connected disability matrix, since that is our primary one, and it's the one that people are most likely to probably want to know about, but we can always do future ones on the others if you need that too. So I think most people are probably aware that, if a veteran has a disability that was caused by service or incurred in service, we can pay disability benefits for that disability. But what they might not be as aware of is with each level of, or each degree of disability, so starting from 0%, 10% on up, there's additional benefits that are not just the monetary compensation that they can be entitled to. So do you want me to just
kind of give us an idea, because I noticed a lot of the things when you're looking at service-connected versus non-service-connected, a lot of those benefits are similar. And then you also have different disability ratings and things like that. So I guess starting out, when you look at disability ratings for service-connected veterans, what's the main difference between, like, say, a person who's 10% versus a person who's 100%, besides just getting full-blown medical treatment at the VA?
Right. So it's in part the amount of money that they get. 10% is this is embarrassing. I forget the exact amount right now, but I know 100% is actually close to $3,000 a month. 10% is around $200 a month, I think. So there's a vast difference in the monetary compensation, and that originally started. The reason the monetary amounts were originally set up was because it was based on, if you have a 10% disability, it impedes 10% of your work ability, of your employment ability. And then, so 20% disability would impede 20% of your employment ability, and so on and so forth. So it was supposed to be, it was initially set up, back in the 40s, to be sort of to replace the income that you might lose because of your service-connected disabilities. Over the years, it's more just, it's fixed, and it goes with the congressionally set cost of living allowance that goes up each year. So it might not be necessarily exactly corresponding with the amount of income lost, but it is at least, it's an extra benefit that somebody wouldn't have gotten. But in addition to the monetary, sorry. No,
I was one thing I wanted to ask, because one thing that a lot of people don't realize is you can collect Social Security disability benefits as well as veterans benefits. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, it is actually correct. Social Security is based on, even if it's disability and it's not based on work history, the two are considered entirely separate, and it's okay. The one exception for that is if you're getting a non-service connected VA pension, that is income-based, and therefore any Social Security benefits that somebody got would offset it. But as far as VA service-connected compensation, it is not income-based, so you can absolutely get full Social Security disability and full VA disability.
So take us further into some of these benefits. What would you say are some of the most important benefits that are unique to service-connected disability or service-connected claims?
So I think one of the most important ones, as far as I'm concerned, is any disability that is service-connected, even if it's at 0%, you are entitled to health care from the VA and prescription drugs for that disability. If you're service-connected at 0% for hearing loss, you're still going to get treatment for hearing loss and hearing aids from the VA at no cost to you. once you hit 70% service connection, any condition, whether or not it's service connected, you are entitled to free treatment from the VA. So if you have, migraines that have nothing to do with service, you can still get treatment at the VA. If you hurt your knee, if you fall down outside and hurt your knee right now and it has nothing to do with service, you can still get free treatment from the VA if you have a 70% or higher disability rating.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That was one thing. I want to
say.
That
to me is just.
Oh, go ahead.
To me, the medical treatment is the most important, aside from the actual financial compensation that we provide.
So I wanted to say, because a lot of veterans get confused with the service-connected, non-service-connected, and circumstantial VA claims. So when we look at the service-connected, one of the key things you mentioned was that it's not income-based at all.
Correct.
So,
and that's.
No, the reason why I was saying bring that up. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Let me interrupt you for 1 second. So the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of people get run into a situation, but they're probably what we're looking at is probably non-service connected claims, where they get a bump up in income. Maybe they took money out of a retirement plan, or maybe they had some kind of extra income 1 year and they're retired, and they start having to pay at the VA for medical services when they were used to getting it, not having to pay at all.
Yes. And that is so below 70% combined disability evaluation. If you are treated at the VA for something that is not service connected, your requirement to pay would be based on your financial status.
Okay. Do you have an idea about how that ranges? Like what is, because people get freaked out when they get that letter and it's like, or they get told at the VA that now you're going to have to pay because last year your income increased too much and you're not 100% disability.
It is completely understandable. I don't know the exact income limit changes for that because I'm with the benefit side, not the hospital side, but I do know if somebody's near or below the poverty level, they would not have to pay at all.
Okay.
The poverty level is unfortunately very, very, very low. So I think it's around $20,000 a year, which is extremely low, obviously. But there are different tiers, and I apologize that I don't know all those tiers because I'm not with the hospital. But it is graduated based on what your income is versus how much you're responsible for financially with the hospital, with the VA hospitals. I believe. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know exactly the limits, like I said. But again, once somebody hits 70% or higher with their VA disability rating, it doesn't matter what their income is. It doesn't matter what the condition that they need treatment for is. It is covered.
Okay. So what else can you tell us about the service-connected disability benefit claims? And then also, if someone is denied for some reason, what is the review process like? Because I know you have a lot of experience with the review process and also appeals and so on.
Correct. So one of the other big things for any service-connected veteran, again, 0% on up, they are eligible for a 10-point veteran preference in federal hiring, meaning if they apply for a job through USA Jobs, and it's not just with the VA, but for any federal agency, and if, say, they and another person were roughly equal in terms of their qualifications, but one person is a service-connected veteran, they have a 10-point preference, which automatically puts them above that other person in terms of deciding who is the most qualified candidate for employment. And I know some people get confused about that. It doesn't mean that you automatically go to the top of the list, but what it means is that is an additional amount that helps bump you up above somebody who might be, the same or similar qualifications as you. So it is a boost to be able to, so service-connected disabled veterans have a slight advantage in terms of getting federal employment.
And then 10 points, so how is it, so to translate that for everybody, how significant is 10 points on an application for a federal job?
It's been a while since I had to review the applications, but it may not be a huge bump, but again, if you're in a pool of people who with all similar qualifications, which often it is, that would put you on top. Let's see. Once you hit 30% disability, you not only have that 10-point veteran preference in hiring, but we also have what's called direct hire authority, which means that you wouldn't have to compete with everybody else necessarily.
So what does that mean? So what do you mean? So if you apply for a job and you're 30% disabled, then you're like, is that basically a walk-on job, or how does that work?
I mean, there would still need to be a position open.
Mm-hmm.
You'd still need to meet the basic qualifications for it. You know, you can't, if a job requires, you know, that you be a certified nurse and you're not, you know, it doesn't matter how high your disability rating is, you won't be, you know, you won't qualify for that. But if you meet, you know, all the basic qualifications for the job, that federal agency could choose to just bring you on without opening without opening a position opening, so you wouldn't be competing with as many other people. Now, of course, that would generally be done through the formerly known as vocational rehabilitation and employment. It's now veteran readiness and employment, but that is because you know, if you don't know somebody at a specific agency, obviously you'd have no connection for them to be able to hire you directly. But working through VRE, they could reach out to an agency and say, hey, I've got somebody who, you know, seems to be, this job seems to be a good fit for them, and they are 30% or higher disabled veteran. Do you have a position?
So as long as you fit the qualifications, you're 30% disabled, the job, there has to be a job opening. Did I hear that correctly?
Exactly, yeah.
So you don't have to go through, they don't have to post a job and say we're hiring for XYZ position. So we were hiring, I don't know, maybe it's I'm just throwing it out there, maybe a nursing position at the VA. If you're a nurse and you're qualified to be a nurse and you're 30% disabled as a veteran, you can just go and say, okay, I want to be a nurse. If there's a job opening, I want to be a nurse, and then they can just hire you on the spot.
Potentially, yes. The other option is also if somebody applies through the regular process, but then it's noted, oh, well, they're 30% or higher, they could just be selected based on that. You know, they could then rise to the very top because of their direct hire authority qualification.
So what's the next level up beyond 30%? You got me excited now. I don't want to know all the stuff you can. I'm not disabled, but no, I can pass the word along maybe to somebody.
Right. Yeah, no, that's basically it as far as the federal hiring goes. But that's pretty big.
Yeah, it's huge.
Because especially since we're in the USA Jobs environment where people apply online, there can be hundreds of applicants for a single job. And so being a disabled veteran, especially with a higher disability rating, you will automatically get more notice than somebody else who's, you know, not a veteran or is, you know, maybe 0% disabled.
Mm-hmm. So beyond 30%, so the next tier what's the next tier? Is that 50%? Is that right?
Well, as far as the hiring process, nothing. But as far as the compensation process, we've got, you know, it's in increments of 10, so 0, okay. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, you know, so on up to 100. There's other ancillary benefits that are eligible, or, you know, that are applicable that aren't necessarily related to employment. All of, you know, no matter what percentage you are, if you are a service-connected veteran, you have commissary and exchange privileges at military bases.
So let me pause you right there for 1 second. So if you're you're a National Guard or Reserve, then you never were deployed, or you never spent more than 6 months in active duty. Do you still get to use the commissary? Do you still get to use the PXs around the country? How does that work?
So I don't know as far as I believe if you're actively in the Reserves or National Guard, I think that qualifies as being able to use the commissary and exchange privileges. Otherwise, you would need to have. I'm sorry. That
I've done. And while in service, I've used the commissary and PX. But when you once you get discharged, then what are you eligible for?
So if you retire from the military, and I believe that includes retired from the National Guard or Reserves, then you would still have those commissary and exchange privileges. If you did not retire, you know, you did a certain number of years, but not enough to qualify for retirement, you would need at least a 0% service-connected disability rating. And that is entirely possible.
You said a 0% disability rating?
At least a 0%.
So how does that work? What is a 0% disability rating?
So you'd actually be surprised. There's quite a few disabilities where you have a diagnosis, but it doesn't quite meet the criteria under the 38 CFR Code of Federal Regulations Part 4, which is the rating schedule. One of the biggest ones that we grant at 0% is actually hearing loss.
Okay.
Because somebody
weird,
has to be
hearing is. You would think hearing be that can be huge. You can't hear.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's the level of loss that somebody has to have in order to meet at least a 10% disability evaluation for hearing loss is significant.
Wow.
It's actually surprising because I have, people I personally know who I think, wow, they can't hear a thing, and they're still 0%. And that's based on the rating schedule. It is set by Congress, so good people to talk to if you want to try to change the disability evaluation schedule a little bit. I don't think that's a very easy thing to do. But so hearing loss is one that we frequently will grant at 0%. Or if somebody broke their pinky finger, I know it sounds silly, but it's, we service connect everything we can. If somebody broke their pinky finger during service, that finger would be a 0% disability. Even if it hurts now, it would still be a 0% disability. There's a whole range of things, but basically if you have a diagnosis but don't meet the official requirements for a compensable evaluation, you'd be at 0% for that disability.
Well, I know a lot of guys, especially like from the Vietnam era, that lost fingers during service. Like lost fingers, not just broken fingers, but lost fingers.
That's
so
different.
They would qualify as 0%. They're not using VA services at all. Some of them that I know, because of their experiences they've had, they don't want to have anything to do with the military. A couple of the guys I know, but I know a truck driver, for example, that does not use the VA. They're connected with his benefits, but he would never have any clue if he's 0% connected. He could actually get something for that.
Yes. And quite frankly, if they lost a finger, that is significantly different from breaking a finger.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I'm looking up the schedule. It does actually make a difference. If you actually have a loss of an extremity, even if it is a finger, there is,
Not to be morbid, but do they distinguish between losing an entire finger versus, like, say, the tip of your finger or half a finger?
Yes, we do actually. Let me look up the rating so that I can actually give you the accurate information instead of just trying to remember. So if you lost 2 digits of one hand, even if it was the ring finger and the little finger, so the two least used, according to our schedule, if it was on your major hand, meaning if you're right-handed, it's on your right hand and you lost both the ring and little finger, that is a 30% disability. A little finger on its own, just the end of it, would be 10%.
Wow.
More, most of the finger would be 20%.
Wow.
So if you do know somebody who's in that position, I highly encourage you to suggest that they apply.
It goes by the nickname Short Finger, believe it or not. Short Finger.
So if you're
on the road now driving a truck, go out and get your 10%, man.
Yeah, we can help. That would be. I love to be able to help people, especially when they are somebody who did not think that they would qualify. I know that there's a misperception among a lot of veterans that, I don't want to apply for benefits because I'm doing fine. Let it go to somebody else. It's not. It's not a finite pool here, so it doesn't matter if 3,000 veterans all file for benefits. If they qualify, they're going to get those benefits. That is written into the federal budget. We are not limited. If I grant one person at 100%, it doesn't mean that I can only grant the next person at 90 or something like that. If you qualify, period.
That's good to know, because a lot of people do have that misconception, or they have that as I'm not sure if they're really being honest with themselves. I think there's something else going on with most people that tell me that, but they use that as a reason not to I think deal with the VA system or remind themselves of the military experiences. But yeah, it makes no sense to think that there's like this limited pool, this richest country in the world that we have, and this huge $700 billion defense budget with a $200-something million VA benefits budget, there wouldn't be enough money to go around for whatever needs to be done. I mean, if you qualify, you're going to get it. I mean, that's basically
right.
So tell me about so when people apply for these different ratings, how easy or how difficult is it to do an appeal?
So if you are unhappy, if you disagree with the decision that we've made, so as of February of 2019, so it's been a few years now, we have a new appeals or disagreement system. It's the Appeals Modernization Act. And basically, there are 3 different avenues that somebody can choose to appeal or redecide a decision that we've made. The first one, and the one we probably see the most often, is called a supplemental claim. And there are specific claims forms. If you go to www.va.gov, you can look up the claims forms you need. But the specific one for a supplemental claim, which is it's basically just, hey, I think you should have granted this, or I think this should have been a different percentage. It's a form 200995, or supplemental claim. And that you would have to submit some sort of new evidence that we hadn't considered in the previous decision. Maybe if we granted 10% for something and you feel it should have been higher, and you had not previously told us that you'd been treated by a certain doctor outside of the VA, and you send in those records and it shows that, yes, indeed, you were entitled to a higher evaluation, we'll go ahead and grant that. And if you did that within a year, we will grant it back to the date we decided the original claim. So that's the one, and that goes straight to like the Chicago regional office, or the general VA regional offices. The next sort of, it's not a step up, it's just different pathways. But the next one is a higher level review, and it's done by people called decision review officers. They're basically sort of senior rating specialists, for lack of a better term, and they can look back at a decision that we made and decide either that something was maybe not quite, a procedure was not quite properly followed, or that they could see a way to grant something that we'd previously denied, or, assign a higher evaluation. The DROs have the authority to make a different decision based on the same evidence, if applicable. And that is applied for by it's a higher level review form, and it's 200996 as opposed to 0995. And finally, the third avenue, and I'm sort of generalizing because I see it's almost 5 already. The third avenue is an appeal straight to the Board of Veterans Appeals. And the BVA, they might take longer, but the judges for BVA are able to interpret directly from 38 U.S. Code, where we at the VA regional offices, we have to go by 38's Code of Federal Regulations, which is in itself an interpretation of U.S. Code. So in other words, the Board of Veterans Appeals interprets straight from the original law itself, while we have a slightly more defined process, which means that we, the regional offices and the Board of Veterans Appeals could make 2 opposite decisions on the same issue, and we could both technically be right.
So what happens then?
If they grant it, it comes back to us and we grant it, because we've been told to do so by the BVA, even if our laws, even if the regulations that we have to follow did not initially allow it. If the BVA decided that, nope, this counts, we're able to grant it, then we will grant it. So it's one of our informal mottos is grant when you can, deny if you must.
Okay. That's
because, again, we want all of our veterans to be able to get the full range of the benefits to which they are entitled.
I think that's amazing. Now, one thing that I saw on there, and this is basically a true or false question. So, for service-connected, if this is across the board, I think it's from between 0 to 100. Are veterans eligible for free hearing aids, free eyeglasses? Is it true or false?
I believe that I've heard that is a new thing, so I cannot 100% answer if it's true or false, but I have heard that is coming.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time. You gave us some great information. That is also some information that we need to go and look up as veterans. Go onto the Jesse Brown VA website, go onto the VA website, go into your local VA website, and look up the matrix for service-connected, non-service-connected, and also circumstantial benefits, because there's a lot of things you can get out there, and you work for it, you've earned it, you served, you should get it. This is America's Heroes Group.
Agreed.
We have our panelists, Tanya, Nixon, supervisors and coaches, the Chicago training team at the VA Chicago Regional Office with nearly 22 years of experience with the VA. It covers all aspects of the VA disability claims process, including appeals. Thanks for your time.
Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group, our roundtable with our partner, National Women's Veterans United, NWVU. January is Cervical Cancer Awareness and National Blood Donor Month. Today is Saturday, January 14th, 2023, and tomorrow, January 15th, is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Our host is Cliff Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host, Army National Guard veteran, Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have, once again, a familiar voice that you've heard many times before in our show, Rochelle Crump. She is a U.S. Army veteran and the founder and president of National Women's Veterans United. How you doing, Rochelle?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Pretty good. It's an old time no see.
I know, but I'm happy to be here, and thank you so much for facilitating today. We appreciate that, having us on the show again. And kudos out to the director, Ms. Glenda Smith, and the governor, Cliff Kelley. Thank all of you.
I've seen some of your foot soldiers out out and about in Chicagoland. I ran into one the other day. So you want to talk about the dream. So we got Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day coming up tomorrow, or actually the day after tomorrow, but people will see these shows tomorrow. But so on Monday, and what do we need to know about the dream? What do you want to tell us about the dream?
Well, for us, we always try to come up with something that we can gather together with women veterans and make it something that is significant, not only to, an event, but also a time for them to relax and not be isolated, a time for them to have camaraderie and also to work on self. One of the things that we don't do a lot of self-care because we're busy taking care of everybody else. The other thing is, with mental health issues and things like that, so we try to do therapeutical things, and what we're doing this time is we're doing Paint Your Dream. And basically we have a instructor that will be doing creative art therapy with us, and we called it Paint Your Dream because we're going to add a quote to it, a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. So we have quite a few of them that we selected, and we want them to try to visualize some art that they can put with that, for something that is relative to what's going on, in today's world and, how it basically impacts all of us. And, I look at that all the time because there's so many things that go on that people don't even know that, the struggle for women veterans is real. And so we try to make sure that we can get them together. And, we also have a guest coming in on Monday, too, Sigma Gamma Rho, Phase Chi Sigma chapter is going to be visiting with us also. Those ladies will be visiting with us. They'll be bringing some donations, and we'll be having conversations about, even as women, some of them may be veterans and some not, but as women we have things also, connected with them, and so we can have conversations about different things and how do we, solve those issues? How do we help each other? That's the biggest thing, because that's one of the quotes that we're looking at, and that was from Martin Luther King too. That was life's most persistent and urgent question is, how or what are you doing for others? Mm-hmm. What are you doing for others? So we play right into that because we're doing something for others. We continue to, collaborate with organizations. We continue to grow in our own stance with our organization, providing right now services for those who need it because they're homeless or at risk, with all of these other entities out here that basically have monies, and we'll probably go into that too, but have money, and we're still, working with women veterans because there's a lot of hoops that sometimes they have to go through. I've said this before, if the lights out today, then, we can't wait 2 weeks to go through the process of all this paperwork and doing all these things. I mean, just pay the bill, and that's what we do because we don't want them having more trauma trying to figure out, well, what do I do now if I don't have lights in my house and I got to find some place to go? If I got kids, I got to get my kids out of here. Just things like that. So that's what our Right Now services are about. And, we're also the fiduciary payee for some women, too, who are struggling, appointed by the Department of Veterans Affairs, and that's the credibility that we have. that they know that we are legitimate and that we can help women veterans when they are in need and get them back on track. We're actually, working with the Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA Veterans Family Advisory Council, working with them. That's a newly created council that they have. We're able to give them some information that is going to help all of the veterans in the city of Chicago, across the way, across the nation, even from some of the things that we do. Looking at homelessness, if you have a homeless veteran, and we'll just take a female veteran, and she has a support pet. It's not a service animal, but that's her support pet, and no one will take her in a shelter. She's not going to leave her pet. She is going to sleep in her car, just like she said when they found her. And, it was hard, just understanding that some of these things just have to be done. We do creative things all the time. So we see if that's happening for one person, it's probably happened for many others, meaning that they may not even go to the hospital because they feel that they can't take their pets there. They don't want to leave their pets unattended, because they're homeless and they leave them on the street, those type of things. So those type of things we have to work out, and we have to be creative about it.
Rochelle, so tell me a little bit about, so when a woman joins the military, so they're 19, 18, join the military, maybe older, possibly, they have a career in the military. What are the challenges or obstacles unique to women that where a woman who served the country ends up homeless on the street? What brick walls are they going through, or where are they hitting where somehow, all of a sudden things just spiral out of control and then they find themselves on the street?
Okay, so what they're seeing a lot of times is, let's start with deployment. So they're deployed. They happen to be in a zone that was, heavily under fire. The fear, the trust factors of people who now are being a little different, you know what I'm saying, with the males and things like that. Women have been, let's say, sexually assaulted. I always say just call it what it is, because it has been rape. But some of them have dealt with that out in the field. Believe it or not, out in the field.
Mm-hmm. I think something like 1 in 4 women in the military experience some kind of sexual assault.
That's correct. So they come back with that baggage. They're getting better now with reporting it. They're getting better now with, doing something about it. But that doesn't take away what happened to them. That doesn't take away the emotional trauma that was caused by it. That doesn't take away the fact that that person now has to live with that all the rest of their lives, So those are some of the things that they come back with. And then sometimes they come back and, they try to go to work, and work is not working out for them because they're just not ready yet. They're not ready. So when we try to spin that with, first thing people are saying, oh, we're going to hire veterans. Well, what happens when the veteran is not ready? The veteran is trying to work on themselves at that time. They're trying to go to school. Sometimes that sets them back because they're just not ready. So as a result of that, not being ready, maybe they had savings. Those savings are like just going away because they don't have any income for a while, a short while, until they get it, and a lot of times they can't stay at home because now they have issues with family. Family is no longer like the family that they came from anymore, and the family doesn't understand, and this is just repeated. It's been repeated year after year, with different eras, if you will. It's better now than it was ever before, that's for sure, but we still have those hitches that have not been able to connect where, we use a lot of common sense to do a lot more creative things.
So when you're doing your therapy with the artwork, I know Dr. Arnold likes to paint. People don't know that about him, but he's one of his many talents. He paints pictures and paints, and he has been. People have approached him and said, "Hey, you've got some really interesting artwork here." So when you see people painting, is it, how therapeutic is this? And do you have you seen any breakthroughs? Because we had a person on our show last week, and they were talking about using Legos. They had that really interesting show about people that are trying to communicate or talk about things that are with their health or with their personal identity, things like that, and things that frustrate them in life, the challenges in life, and what they were doing was using Legos to build things, whatever that might be. Even if you're not a master builder, maybe not artistic whatsoever, but just the idea and the process of doing some kind of artistic expression, the best way you know how, the best way that however it means to you. And that's one of the things important I think about when we talk about artwork and expression is that it doesn't have, we're not trying to paint a Picasso or trying to make the Eiffel Tower. You just do whatever it feels from the inside of you to express yourself.
Exactly.
So what kind of breakthroughs have you seen with this?
The breakthrough that I have seen is the enjoyment that they get. Like even now, we're actually in the process of selling a couple of paintings that some of the women made.
Wow.
And just out of the clear blue sky, it came up. And I wish that there were funding, in some of maybe those organizations that received $100,000 awards or the ones that got $50,000 awards. I wish that was something that they had included, in the process of, the eligibility for things that they're doing. That they gave them money for. But I don't see that in there. I don't see that with any of the organizations that, have been named, but it looks like to me that, there's still some questions about those things, about those entities that have received those grants too. I want to let you know about that because I can just follow up on that right quick too. I did contact the OIG. I contact the ethics, because I am appointed to a committee for the state. And every year I have to take the ethics test. And what that ethics test says is that if you see something that's not right, wrong, conflict of interest, any of that, you should report it. And so that's just exactly what I did. I did report it, but I have not heard anything on it, and I won't hear anything from them. But I also contacted Cook County Veterans Affairs Office, too, and I haven't heard from them. I want to know what those organizations are doing.
Right, just to recap what you talked about that on that particular show.
Okay,
give us
I'm
a
talking
snapshot
about
of what it was
the honor grant. There was an honor grant that went out, and they had almost $1 million, was it $1 million, I believe it was, or something very close to that if it wasn't that. And they actually had the grant out for others to apply. There was actually an eligibility component with that. Now, I'll give an example. I looked at one of them, and as I looked at the eligibility, one of the areas said that you must, have 3 years of experience serving the veteran population. Must have a program that has 3 years of experience serving the veteran population. Okay, so there is one entity or agency on that list that received $50,000. They only had 2 years of existence, and there's nothing in there about veterans. Nothing, absolutely nothing.
So why do you think that they got it? Why do you think they got the grant?
I think because they wrote for it. They actually applied for the grant. And, maybe they put things in there that, they could say that they've been working for veterans, but it's true to the fact that they've only been in existence for 2 years. Now, that they won't be able to have. They won't be able to have it. So, and I'm looking at that, and I've got to follow up on that one also, because, I am grateful in my own way that these agencies have a way to help veterans. But when you're doing things, you have to do them right. And that is one of the quotes of Dr. King, too. The time is always right to do what is right. You understand? So we're not going to just let people, in the hierarchy, if you will, that are basically administering those grants and not be true to what it is that they publish, or to do the right thing if, in fact, that agency was not eligible, then they just weren't eligible. They weren't eligible. Now, I asked for them to basically, when are we going to find out about exactly what they do? Well, I looked them up to see what they did. Now this is not a complaint session here. I just want to tell you where I am with that part of it, because we're on that subject now.
So what do they do? What does this organization do if they're not helping veterans?
They have food security. Food security. And they've only been in existence for a short time. Of course we need food. Of course that's very important. It has a lot to do with our health and, our raising our children, our families. That's one of the dynamic things and things that our families need. Everybody needs food. So I'm not saying that that's an issue, but what I'm saying is this was not just the place that they should have been able to get accommodated with the funds. I don't see that.
Do you see a lot of veterans organizations like yours? Are there a lot of, because what it sounds like is that because of the fact that they do something with food security, you can always say, well, if we, like, for example, you could be a homeless organization or organization that helps homeless people, but then a homeless person could be a veteran or they could not be a veteran. So it's not necessarily specific to veterans per se, but we include veterans. Correct. But you can technically include anybody. So, but are there any? Can veteran organizations or veteran service organizations? Do you guys have the same benefit when it comes to grants? Like, for example, if you're a veterans organization like yours is focusing on particularly women veterans, could you go out and get a grant for, say,
gift cards all the time for food?
Yeah,
we give them gift cards for food.
Will anybody give you money for that?
Box foods and things like that. We want them to have dignity and go to the store and shop for the things that they like. Not the things that are donated from different entities and stuff like that. A lot of times we've gotten bags of stuff and the stuff had been, I guess, out for a long time or was spoiled or whatever. So we stopped accepting food like that. We started doing gift cards, giving them wherever they live. We try to have a gift card that is going to benefit them in the community where they live, and they can pick the things that they need. And they can also get toiletries and things that they need, things for their house and stuff like that, because all of that is a factor, too, with the EBT card. They can't get, toilet paper, paper towels, personal items, women things. They can't get those things on the EBT card. So they have to have another way. And then if they're only getting, just say, 20% from the VA because the service connected, they're only getting $300 a month, and you know how far that goes, And so, it's a lot of things that we're looking at, a lot of things that we're engaged in, making a difference, making an impact, but, we did not get that grant, and we didn't get that grant because we couldn't get the grant through. There was a glitch at the end, but I wasn't complaining about that glitch, because either you get in or you don't get in, and we didn't get in. So I'm not complaining about that, and I told you that the last time. But, I understand that some thought maybe that there was a little jealousy there. No, I'm not jealous about that because I want to know who is doing what so that I can refer some of these veterans to them. That is what I'm asking for the county. What is it that they do so that we can refer other veterans to them so that they can utilize the services that they have? You can't send them to a place that you don't know what it is that they do. So that's what we're looking for. We'd like those type of things posted so that the veterans don't have a closed door. I'm not going to send somebody to a place and I don't know what they do. All I know is they got $100,000. But what do they do?
Do you see that larger organizations get preferential treatment or preferential dollars versus smaller organizations in the veteran community?
Say that again?
Do larger organizations, like say like a Wounded Warriors, a large multi-million-dollar veterans organization, are they going to be preferred over, say, a smaller organization that maybe doesn't have that kind of money?
Well, absolutely. They have a gift. They have the right connections. Let's just say that. They have the right connections because remember now, that was an organization that got into trouble and they switched the names, turned the names around, got rid of the people who were there, the bad people, and they've carried on just like nothing happened. And so, you know, they have the right connections, but we in the community oftentimes overlooked, you know what I'm saying, ignored. And, you know, it just seems like for us, we get grants, we get small grants, you know, but we're helping ourselves more than that. I'm not going to complain about, you know, what I didn't get. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be grateful for what we have and the many women veterans that we're helping and how we're helping them. We come out of our pockets, we make pledges, we hold fundraisers, we do things like that. Could we use the help? Yes, we can. It's a plea for help.
Rochelle Crump, you're a U.S. Army veteran and founder.
You're
doing what you do. And the thing about it is, I think it's really critical and important to remember is that, you know, Dr. King pretty much always was an advocate of doing for yourself first, making sure that you put forth your best effort. I mean, the 16th is the day we have off, but the 15th is actually his birthday. So we're honoring him on his birthday, the 15th. So the thing of it is that we got to do what we got to do for ourselves, and also give that service to the community, because community is all about helping each other. Right, exactly. This is America's Heroes Group. Rochelle Crump, U.S. Army veteran, founder and president of the Women's Veterans United, National Women's Veterans United. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group with our partner, Veterans Legislative Voice. January is Cervical Cancer Awareness and National Blood Donor Month. Today is Saturday, January 14, 2023, and tomorrow is the actual birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day on January 15th. Our host is Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have none other than Stephanie Collada with us. She's a veteran, served in the U.S. Army Reserve as a sergeant first class. Now she is known and respected as the founder and creator of the Veterans Legislative Voice. How you doing?
Doing great. I'm excited to be here.
always exciting to have you here.
Yeah.
So there was an article you brought to us on military.com, and it says, and the title of the article is "Meet the Mikes: The New Men in Charge of the Military and Veterans Oversight in the House." And we're talking about the House of Representatives. So I look at the photo of the main article, and I see a bunch of white guys. Very white guys.
Yeah.
Extremely white guys. These are very white guys.
Old white men.
So I guess one of the things that they're talking about is wokeness. The GOP is very concerned about wokeness in the military.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of things that they're worried about, including the wokeness. I'll say it. This past week has been a really interesting insight. I will always say that C-SPAN is the original reality TV out there. So it's been an interesting thing that's been going on. And when you refer to the wokeness for everybody else, that's actually in regards to Representative Mike Rogers from Alabama. And there's a bit of drama that goes into that for those that had watched prior to the 15th roll call vote for the Speaker of the House. Representative Rogers had a few words to say to Matt Gaetz, Representative Matt Gaetz, who had been restrained from voting for McCarthy, which is the reason why they've gone so many votes. Gaetz had one of his stipulations to vote for McCarthy was for him to get chairman of the Armed Services Committee for the House. Mm-hmm. It was supposed to go to Representative Mike Rogers, which did end up happening after the 15th, after all this progress that happened after the 15th roll call event. But that's just a little bit of added drama that might be coming into play here when it comes to all of the different points of contention for the military and the Armed Services Committee. You're going to have not only most likely conservatives versus liberals on different sides of opinion of how to run the military, you're going to run into how ultra-right conservatives and moderate conservatives are going to want to run this military. So that's an added thing of drama that we're going to see here in the next session.
So isn't it normal, though, that a lot of times when people want to get or vote for something, there's all this kind of back alley kind of dealing where people are saying, if I won't vote for this bill unless you do this for us, or I won't do this bill unless you point me over here, and not so much we're not talking about in a legal way. We're not talking about the Blagojevich, give me I'm gonna sell the Obama Senate seat type thing, but we're talking about more so they're just willing and dealing, trying to get things done for their constituents, or hopefully for their constituents, or to get something that they want for something that they want to give. Is that common?
It is, but not normally with the speaker vote. Okay. Especially to the extremes that we've seen. There were certain people, like in the past, when the left has taken control of the House. There were the squad, the many people that had said that were the alt lefts, and they had their own concessions and rules. But the thing is that they still voted for Pelosi despite of what may have gone on behind the doors. So it's a different way of seeing how different parties react to others on when they do the deals. It also is a difference in leadership on how they run their parties.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Boehner was the last Republican House majority leader. Is that right?
Oh, God, you're going to make me.
Is that Boehner? Boehner, I think, was the last one.
No, I thought it was Paul.
Okay, all right. Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was Paul Ryan, right?
I cannot remember. I apologize. Right. I always remember
politics.
Paul, not Paul Ryan or Ron Paul. Yeah. I always mix them all up.
Yeah, he did. But I forgot about him because he actually got out of politics once Trump got elected. He like resigned his post.
Right, because he was the last one to bend the knee. Many Game of Thrones people out there, he was the last one to actually bend the knee towards Trump. And so when he had to do that, that was basically not long after he announced his retirement. So it's not that surprising of that happening. Other right conservatives have done the same thing. Representative Kinzinger, he was on the January 6th committee. And of course, he's faced a lot of blowback for having to do that because it has to do with things that would put Trump in very dangerous grounds. And he retired instead of trying to run like Representative Liz Cheney did. But Liz Cheney is trying to stay more into politics in different ways in order to at least try to save the right and the Republicans, I mean.
But it's so weird, though, like looking at how she was treated, because, if you go back, the political winds change with whatever, with the tide, I guess, whatever. But so she would have been considered, I guess, the definition, a poster child of the Republican conservative movement, or the Republican conservatism in general. She has all of the check boxes of what she would come to know as the Republican Party. If you go back particularly if you're looking at Reagan Republicans, Reagan-style Republicans that came out of the early 80s and so on. But then all of a sudden now with the Tea Party, I haven't heard much about the Tea Party lately, but the Tea Party came and it had upheaval, and then all of a sudden Trump gets elected, and all of a sudden she's on the outs. Right.
So a little bit of background. The Tea Party ran into the ground when they had a lot of questioning issues of their funding, their organization, and who's really pulling the shots. So they kind of ran into a wall there that happened, and they pulled we're just not going to talk about it, so then it kind of goes away thing. And so then instead, a lot of the Tea Party support had gone away and melted back into the regular Republican Party until Trump got put in, or at least entered the theater. But let's get back to with the military and the wokeness, and for the veterans on what may happen to them. So
yes.
Woke and anti-woke and all of that stuff has been really hot topics that's been happening in the last 2 years. And even more so for the positive connotation of woke, because it means, people are recognizing minorities, trying to give more advantages to the disadvantaged, trying to make sure that things are more equal to them and honestly make people's lives a little bit easier. And then anti-woke are the people that are, I guess, don't want to have that advantage to the disadvantage. They see some sort of negative connotation with those things, especially for the support of transgender troops in the military. People that are anti-woke are against that. And so that's one of many things that Go ahead.
No, it seems like when we talk about wokeness, everybody's got their own definition of wokeness. There's a million different definitions going around. Like, to me, wokeness as a black man means, to me, it's just the same modern version of black consciousness, black power that it came out of the 60s to the 70s. So it's really the same kind of concept. However, with wokeness, I think the more accurate in the hip hop world is, like you mentioned, it's not just about people of color. It's also about transgender. It's about anybody who is disenfranchised. Women's rights. Are talking about everybody's rights. From any kind of marginalized group. But what is the GOP's definition of wokeness? Well, how do they perceive it?
Well, one of the main ones is transgenders in the military. That one's been a big contention in the military since Obama had pretty much removed the ban. it was kind of an unspoken rule. There were some troops that had transitioned prior to coming in the military, and then they made it into the military in their new gender and served. That's the most that I know of that went under the radar. I was still serving as an Army Reservist and also a government civilian for the Army Reserve just before the ban got lifted. And prior to that, which is really crazy, I'll give you guys a little insight. It was in Washington State, which of course is a very woke area, positive woke area and liberal, where I had lived and worked. And we got the task to pretty much identify who and how many were transgender troops in the military, or at least assigned into our organization. I looked to my fellow coworkers that had received the task from hire, and we had agreed unanimously, almost without any conversation, of we're not going to ask, because to us, that's like a don't ask, don't tell. We're not going to force troops to out themselves. We're not going to put them in that position to do that. And we also don't know what the intention was to out them in that manner. So many people, even outside of my organization, had elected to say, nope, nobody, we're good. About 3 months after that task had been sent up and received, Obama actually had lifted the ban and allowed a lot of transgenders to now serve. Many had served in one gender, got out of the military, transitioned, and then came back in with a new gender. We had a big influx. Well, it's not big, but we had an influx of transgender troops that had came back into the Army Reserve that way, which is quite interesting because the Republicans and the GOP cite anti-woke policies or woke policies that actually has been damaging the recruitment and retention numbers towards the military, despite the fact that the military currently has or at least the Army has the highest rate of suicides and an increase of sexual assaults and harassment. It's been fun with the arguments here.
So this is the thing. So a lot of people look at what's going on with as far as the movement within this, and to me this is not just a social issue, but it's also a technology advancement, because 30-40 years ago, I mean, if a person wanted to change genders, it could be done, but not to the extent that it's done today. You actually have people out there, and celebrities out there who are different genders, and you would never know that person was born a different gender. There's a rapper, which I forget the rapper's name, was Star. Maybe Ivan knows, remembers the person's name, like Macy Star or something like that. Born for years, it was a hoax. People thought it was a hoax that this person was born a male, transitioned, at a young age, became a female, and now has been doing pranks, even pranks on like YouTube pranks or whatever, like getting guys, whatever like that, to do stupid stuff to try to get her number and things like that. There were straight men who have no idea that she was born a male.
Yeah.
Because the technology and the medicine, the advances we can do today that's where we're at. Now we're talking about even being able to put babies and men who are not, who are born male, but implanting fetuses, I guess, in men so they can develop a baby inside their body, which that technology goes back to the 70s, but it's being perfected now with all the stuff that we're doing today.
Honestly, I'm all for that, because then maybe we will actually get paid maternity leave as a, mandatory requirement in this country, which, we're one of the few first world countries that do not have that. Everybody come on, and also equal pay. Maybe we'll finally get that instituted, and sick leave. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox for that portion.
No,
but from the military side, I completely agree. The other part of it with the technology today is that we have so many technology devices and things that's attached to a person that has to do with your gender.
Yes.
When we had to do the in-processing for the transgender troops to be coming back in, we would recall their profiles and their records from the systems, and it'll come up as male. They walk in as a female, wearing beautiful sundress, beautiful long hair. We love it. We let them do a runway walk and everything. but we still have to do the processing to do that. And it's everywhere. It's from the government travel records that you have to do. It's, of course, the personnel. It has to do with the weapons qual. It has to be part of the PT tests, admin, training records, everything. There's so many things ingrained with a gender profile now, while before, back in the 70s, you didn't have that as well. You only had maybe 3 things that needed to change the gender. For the military, plus everything else that's going on today, there's so much stuff on top of that will add gender on there. And it's really complicated a lot of times to get that
from the Xfinity Studios at WVON, it's the Black Star Project on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Stick with us once. There we go. Now we're back online. You still there?
Okay, we're good?
There we are. We're good.
Yes, I'm still here.
So, yeah, that must be the GOP trying to block us or something. I have no idea what that was. But anyways, but to the point though, I mean, because one of the things, and I'm all about rights and things like that, but I'm kind of, I won't say fluid, but I look at what works. When it comes to the military has to be a functioning institution that works to do its job, and it has even though we try to stretch the military thin and do a lot of different things around the world, we're the policemen of the world sometimes we're nation builders, sometimes we're just invaders, sometimes we're just doing our real job, which was to defend the country. But for a person who's transitioned, and I don't know much about the regimens that they have to go through and things like that. I know there's hormones and things like they have to take and so on. Couldn't imagine. I know it'd be hard. I would imagine. I've heard women talk about the struggles they go through being on a battlefield or being deployed out in the field as a woman, particularly when it comes to cycles and things like that. How hard would it be for a person who's transgender to serve in a capacity? And then looking at all the stuff that women go through, all the sexual harassment, the military sexual trauma, the women experience and things like that, even some men, but more so to an extent women. What type of environments are transgender people going to be exposed to in the military? And I know people have already done this and already served, and I would love to hear their stories and hear their voices. But that's one of the things I'm concerned about. And then does that compromise, which is a point that a lot of the GOP make, is would that compromise a mission? You know, if someone has, is going through harassment and things along those lines. And yes, we shouldn't punish the person who is trying to serve. But then again, is being in service, is that a right or is that a privilege to be in a uniform?
A lot of good questions, and honestly, not many of us would have the answers. And to me, I try to be as open and honest and at least tolerant to all, because everybody's got their own truths, their own perspectives, and their own lives to be adding to all of that. It is really complicated. When I used to be doing some statistics studying on the military sexual trauma that was happening, I actually separated between the genders of the likelihood, or basically the people that were reporting sexual assaults compared to the prevalence of sexual assaults. Separated that by gender. And one of the years for men, it was 0.9% of the men that were sexually assaulted that year actually reported their sexual assault. Mm-hmm. And it's really scary. I can only imagine if it was a transgender. Transgender people, even before they even go in the military, have a higher likelihood of harassment, violence, physical, emotional, mental abuse, and so many different types of issues that can also be on top of that just because of their identity of transgender, especially if they don't pass. So it is pretty scary. And honestly, to me, it's the only way that we can be fair and equal is we accept all. Pluralism is the only way that we can really be as best as we can. On to that, I really do want to talk about the veteran side for the Veterans Committee that's been going on because of the final interim rule. I've talked about it before. The VA has allowed abortions for veterans and their families for when it's needed for the health and welfare of the veteran, rape, or incest. This was a big point of contention for multiple Republicans on the other side, especially Representative Mike Bost, who's now the chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee. So this is something that we really do need to watch. And one of the things that I really want to point out to everyone is that Representative Bost likes to refer to the law that was passed and said that the VA Secretary, Dennis McDonough, had broke the law by adding this interim final law because he changed something that was supposed to be by of the people. I'm going to tell you guys this first. The law that was passed that Representative Bost speaks about, it speaks to the women veterans and their health care. It says what can be received: pap smears, breast exams, mammograms, general reproductive health care. But it also says they cannot provide infertility services, which they actually have been doing and no one's been complaining about, abortions, and pregnancy care. But that's when Mike Bost stops there. He does not end where there's supposed to be a period. He ends at the comma. After the comma, it's except for such care relating to a pregnancy that is complicated or in which risks of a complication increased by a service-connected condition. So this law is technically within the VA, totally VA Secretary's realm of responsibility. But we'll point that out to you because they're going to be fighting this for the next 2 years, and likely we're going to see hearings and investigations because now the GOP and the Republicans have the subpoena power for investigations. They can actually go to the VA Secretary and say, we need this document. If you do not abide, we'll hold you in contempt.
Wow.
So I'm sorry. I had to get all of that out there for you guys to know because this is really important.
Right. That's a lot to think about because, I know it ties into the original idea about inclusivity and also about all the different struggles that different groups are going through, particularly on top of everything. And then, to me, wokeness is not even really. It's a term, but I can't. And to be honest with you, because like I said, this is not like a new concept in history and pop culture. We've been dealing with this like in many different iterations and so on. It's just this iteration of it in this particular generation, and there'll be others coming after us, in the future generations. It's more about it's not just about people of color. It's about everybody.
Yeah.
And my question is, are white men included in that?
I say yes, because white men can also be gay.
True.
They can be bi. They can be all sorts of other. They can be pansexual. They can be open relationships and poly. All of those things don't fit the normal white cis male attitude that a lot of people recognize. So to me, that fits to the wokeness of what everybody's going into. I wish I could go back and speak to my linguistics professor because of how the term woke has changed in the past 2 years. Mm-hmm. That would be an amazing study to see how the positive and negative connotations has changed throughout political, social, economical ways. Veterans are also normally, those that have used the VA in the healthcare, they are the most vulnerable socioeconomical demographic. They're more likely to be single parents with multiple children. So many things and many of their benefits that they can lose can be to make them even more vulnerable. Another thing that needs to be pointed out is that
Steph, we are so out of time.
I'm so sorry.
No. To be continued, darling. That's why you are Veterans Legislative Voice, because you bring us what we need to know.
Yes.
Thank you, and happy birthday to your dad.
Thank you. Yes, happy 70th birthday to my father. Yay! Thank you guys so much. Love you, and talk to you next time.
Yes, you will.
Stephanie Collado, Veterans Legislative Voice.
The one and only. Yeah. Wow. Great shows today. Absolutely fantastic. Great shows today. I want to really make a great announcement about when I called our advisory board member, the Honorable 711 Congressional District Congressman Danny K. Davis, just to say hi, Happy New Year. He informed me that as of Tuesday, January 17th, Mr. Will Smith from Gale's, I have it right here, Galeville community will be coming to get brand new coats that the congressman bought himself out of his pocket to give to his veterans constituents. Now, how about that?
That's nice. That's great.
No, but that's real.
Right.
Yeah. See, not doing it because it's campaign time, not doing it to get on the news, not doing it because his heart is good, his service is right, and he cares about his constituents. So I said, I'm going to tell it. I'm going to tell it because that's worth telling. So bravo to our advisory board member for coming out of his pocket, caring about his constituents, Galewood community, Galewood, Galewood. Mr. Will Smith is coming to pick up brand new coats, winter coats at that, for veterans and Congressman Danny Davis' congressional district.
Not Will Smith the actor, so don't get that confused on social media. We're not talking about the guy that slapped people. We're talking about different Will Smith.
No, we're not talking about that Will Smith at all. Okay, so we want to thank our technical producer today, the one and only Lady Kaya, the smooth operator who keeps AHG, America's Heroes Group, balanced. The best digital to media. Okay, I'm having a hard time talking today. The best digital media producer in the world, Ivan Ortega of Scouts Army Production. Whoa. He has taken our show to a whole different digital level. Until one of the best co-hosts smiling, looking at me. You, Mr. Sean Claiborne, you're doing a fantastic job. So on behalf of Cliff Kelley, the governor of Talk Radio, Colonel Dr. Damon Erner, and all of us, have a blessed, safe, and wonderful just weekend. Let me get off this microphone because I'm totally goofing this up. Oh, you guys have a blessed weekend.
Hi, this is Cliff Kelley, Vietnam veteran, co-founder, and host of America's Heroes Group. We have helped hundreds and thousands of veterans find the resources they needed to move on past trauma, find the services they need to heal, find training, jobs, and housing. That's our mission. To support this mission so that we can continue our work and have even more veteran stories of overcoming and success, we need your help. Right now, please consider making a donation to America's Heroes Group. Dig deep and give what you can to support this mission and help those veterans in need. You can donate through Chase Bank's Zelle app by adding America's Heroes Group as a recipient with our phone number 312-804-5831. You can donate through PayPal on our website, americashg.org. From the home page, go to donations, or you can go straight to www.americashg.org/donations. And finally, you can send a check to America's Heroes Group, Inc., 155 North Quaker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois, 60606.